Hey Patreon subscribers, it is me. We're doing the 1st of January's of videos. This one is going to be an actual full-on tutorial. It's not a tutorial of anything that I learned. It's actually me following along with a tutorial from my complete digital painting from start to finish from Sara Tepes. You can check out the link below to find out how to do it. So we're going to do it right now from start to finish. This is going to be for about 34 minutes. So it's going to be for the duration, so I'll try and explain as I'm going along the video. So we are pressing play. Alright, so as you can see right here, we have the initial sketch that I did all in pencils on paper. Just scanned the image and then popped it onto Clip Studio. And right now I'm going through that sketch and I'm redrawing it so that all the line work is digitalized and I can play around with the line work as I go. And as you can see, I put a symmetry ruler on there so I can line up the eyes to the nose and just make it look like it says like symmetrical. So right now I'm just doing a mirror image to make sure it looks alright. That's the one thing I've always learned, is that you can take an image that you've drawn, either digital or traditional. If you put it against the mirror, you can actually kind of see where the proportions go wrong and where things are not even. So right now, you'll see later on in the video that one of the biggest things that I've done is, like, I keep playing around with those eyes. That's probably my biggest issue with this page was her eyes. So I was doing a lot of trying to adjust them, redraw them, try to keep going to make it look proper, look right. And that was one of the things I should have paid more attention to as I was drawing it in pencil in the very first stages, because once I got that done, just having a copy, it would have been easy, just quick little adjustments. So that was on me. So that's when, you know, I may draw at a certain level, but even sometimes I make mistakes and I have to learn from those as I go. So right now I'm only on one layer, just drawing all this stuff out, just a quick sketch, just redrawing everything, make it all pretty and make it all look good. It's these things that you'll see in the later stage will kind of go away, but like I said, I'm just trying to make sure I know where everything is, make sure it's all drawn properly, playing around with her eyes again, and then making sure those levels and her proportions look good. Her right eye looks a lot bigger than her left, so that will be definitely changing a little bit. And then I just bulked up her eyelashes, and see as I'm playing around with her other eye, have noticed, like I said, you can keep going and going, and you just notice things as you go along. I may not have noticed it right away until I notice it right now. So if you're discouraged about drawing kind of stuff, don't worry about it. So right now I did the full layer of just gray, and I got rid of my initial pencil sketch. I was like, you know, I usually go back to it just for reference, just to know where I'm going. But right now it'll be going into quickly doing all the shading and all the word is escaping me right now. It's basically the levels, like showing where the shade, where the lighting is coming from, to make sure it all looks good. And I do it all in gray tones. So you see I'm going for the darker stuff and using an opaque watercolor brush, just to kind of give it a painterly feel and just have it mold or meld and blend the way I'm hoping for it. So, as you can see, there is the lighting here. I did use a reference of a piece from one I found on Instagram. I love the pose, I love the lighting for it, so I use a lot of that to help with the referencing. So don't worry, you know, it's not cheating if you're referencing. You always just got to make sure you know what you're referencing for, and, you know, not just making a carbon copy. So you can see it just changing all the points and levels. And so this is not, you know, perfect. As you can see, I'm trying to just blend in, just showing out where the highlights are going to go. Right now it's just mid-tones and shade at the moment. At this stage, you're not going to worry about coloring. Let's just make sure it looks proper, like where the light's going to hit her, where the shade's going to be, and the darkest points and the lightest points are going to follow. Still going through. Just want to make sure I'm still recording. So now I'm going on with another one. So this is all in a normal layer. There's no multiplies. There's no different blending layers to this one. It's just all normal with all just different sets of gray. And right now I'm just putting in the highlights, like I said, just quick brush strokes, and then blending it in to the points where it's the most highlighted. And she's wearing this, of course, it's Mera from Aquaman, so she's wearing a very skin-tight costume, so it's going to be almost like it's a painted-on suit. Yeah, so the light is definitely coming from above, so that's why the lightest parts are right on her thigh and on the top of her breast. There's a little point right by or below her belly button where it kind of sticks out, so you see a little bit of light coming through. And we zoom in on her face, and we're going to start putting some highlights on her lids, her eyelids, on her tiara, coming through those points. A little bit on her nose. Yeah, just quick little brush strokes here and there just to know where everything's going. It's not going to be perfect. Right now, it's not going to be perfect. You'll see in the next step where it's going to start to really take form on what I'm trying to do. And the hair is actually a lot of fun to draw. I wanted to make it look really frantic and flowy as she's underwater. Here now I'm taking a darker tone just to try and get some more definition. And trying to keep it in those lines. Yes, a little bit of gold there, just trying to highlight it. So again, this is all just just a quick painterly style, just to play around. That part, I think I was just trying to play around with how the fish scales on her costume is going to look like, and it didn't really like that way, so I was going to do it another edge. So right now, I am actually taking a lasso tool, and I'm just trying to make sure I don't get into her costume, and I'm just trying to put a little bit of more darkness in the background around her without affecting her herself. A little bit of structures there just to make it there's some sort of underwater piece there. So I got rid of the lines so you can kind of see where everything is, and you can kind of tell the structure of it to make sure it looks okay without using the lines. So make it seem like, okay, where can I touch up here, where can I go here, where's some lighting to play around with. So I put the main layer, which is at the very, very top, to a very low opacity. You see there's no lines, there's a couple little things here and there I can play around and touch up with. I'm focusing because this is a piece that will definitely have some sexual nature to it. So I'm playing around with that. So right now, I did a new layer, which is at the very, very top, and all I'm doing is taking different brushes. Right now I'm on the transparent watercolor, and I'm just blending in where the line work is and trying to make it blend in with the rest of the piece of the gray tone. So you can see I've put the opacity back up on the line work, and now all I'm doing is literally just blending the line work to make it look make it like I said, make it blend in, so that it's not just line work and shade. It's actually just going to be all shade, and some of the darker pieces are actually going to blend in with the watercolor that I'm working on. So this is the newest part of the stuff I've been learning and teaching from this tutorial that I found on YouTube. I wanted to give this one a shot, and I wanted to it be a Patreon exclusive kind of thing, so you can see that I'm trying to do new things and trying to discover new techniques and really up my game a little bit. So I'm not just stuck in one style. I can play around in different styles and show that it is possible. You don't have to just stick to one and keep going. You can learn different things. You can go to different avenues and different mediums to create your work. So yeah, so this continues on for a bit just to make sure everything goes through, and then after this we'll go into the coloring section. The coloring section is actually going to be kind of really simple. I thought it was going to be a little bit difficult, but this part is the real difficult part. Just trying to make sure all the lines, excuse me, all the lines kind of disappear and don't become so prominent. You want it to feel like the painterly style is what is really the big focus on this piece and make it kind of, I know it's not going to look realistic like it's photorealism, but it's as close as I've ever been able to get without, especially digitally. Usually I've done it pretty well with pencil crayons and that kind of stuff, so this is a whole different game for me, and it's really, really new. We are at 10 minutes on this one, so like I said, it's a half an hour, 34 minutes at least going through all this stuff, so it is a longer video, but there is a lot that we need to cover. So stay on that first layer, and we don't have to do anything. I don't think we did anything with this layer, so it's really just basically just trying to go through and just cover that line work. We're not erasing it, we're just painting over it just to make it feel, just so we know where the darkest points are with my line work, and trying to blend it back in so it matches the tones that I already painted on there. Yeah, and I just go in. Even if I put some of that stuff on a different layer, I would still just jump in and put a little bit of highlights on there, just so I know where they're going. So that's no big deal, which layer you pop it on. And again, this is my first time doing it this way, so you'll see me jump in a couple times and redo something and go back again and redo it, just so I can get that proper tone that I'm looking for, and making sure that the reference that I have in my head works out well. One of the things I try to tell people is I use reference. Definitely use reference if you're not comfortable with anatomy and the way the body is formed and shaped. It's definitely a good idea just to have something around so you can take a look and always look back and make sure you're doing it right. I'm pretty comfortable with my anatomy, but of course I always have to take a look at sometimes, as you'll see when I go through her face a whole bunch of times, especially with her eyes, and just something just does not look right from timing from between one time and another, so I always have to go through and double check. It probably was a lot better if I would have just stuck to my guns the first couple times, but again I didn't because I'm an idiot. So right now we're going to be starting to work on the face, trying to see if we can give her some form. I think I should have went a little bit darker on her neck, just because it is a very deep point. Just raising up my mic a little bit. Just going over there, going in with the nose. So you can see her nose is a little bit crooked compared to how the rest of her face is aligned. And, I think I play around with it, but we'll see if we get there. Playing around with the opacity in her eyes. Yeah, you can see I was on onto a different layer than I was supposed to, so that sometimes happens. I try to go into one layer and play around with it, and then I keep working on that same layer, and it doesn't really work out for me all that well. So I have to go back around, maybe even erase it, or just go back in and redraw it like I did here. So yeah, here's one of many attempts at working on those eyes. I don't know why the eyes, I'm pretty good at getting those lines done, but again, I must have been too overzealous and didn't draw it as well in the first initial pass. Play now. It's at the 13:30 mark. So right now I'm just playing with the lips. One of the edges looks a little bit more rounded than the other one, but I think I might go back to that one a little bit later. So sometimes when you're working on something and you are just hyper focused on one little piece just because it's not looking right to your eye compared to what you really want it to, it's best to just jump off and do something else just to get away from it. Either you can work on the same piece, or even literally just jump off, go do something completely different, or work on something else just to get away from it, because you might be too hyper focused on something and it might just distract you the entire time. So right now I'm just playing around with her suit. So yeah, so now I'm jumping back onto her face, playing around with some of the details there. The tiara and her hairline was actually a pain in the butt to get done, both with the coloring and with this section here. So right now, as you saw, I was using some ruler pieces just to kind of give that perfect curve to some of her tiara to make it look a little more realistic. So you can see right there. Just jump it in. Then I come around and I would work on shading it. Just a little bit of a cheat, but well, that's what they're there for. Playing around with her tricep, so her tricep would stick out, especially when it's raised at that level. Then it'll come down to her shoulder. And yeah, now we're getting into the hair, which I wanted to have a lot of fun with. So you can see I'm using a lighter brush, which is a very, I'm using a watercolor, which is very, very thin, just so I can make those strands of hair just flow out from the rest of her hair. Using some dark pieces and some lighter pieces. Yeah, just to make the strands of hair stick out a little bit more, like look more flowy and realistic. You know, as I was doing this, I was like, oh yeah, this looks really, really cool. So I was like, but wait, I'm going to have to color this stuff. So that's going to be very, very time consuming to have to work that out. But I believe it was really worth it in the end. So going back into the tiara, try to round it out a little bit and play around with some details. So the one thing in there, you can see on the left-hand side that it's a lot darker. That's why I wanted to make sure. And at the top of the tiara, kind of block some of the lighting to the headband on it to the left, as you can see. So I'll try to play around with the lighting and the tone on there. So you can see it's kind of lighter there, then it goes darker. There's a big heavy shadow right at the left-hand side. There we go, some more shading in there. So that's part of the tiara is causing a cast shadow. Very, very straight edge right there on her tiara. Now I'm going to try and play around with her hair here, just make it look a little bit more realistic. And that's what it looks like without all that gray and without the other tones. It just looks like just a bunch of different, just a little bit of shading pieces. So you can see as I took away those bottom layers, you could see all that kind of stuff. So here I am now trying to take the eyes, like take one eye and try to copy it and flip it over just so that it works on the opposite end. Then I'm trying to do a symmetrical ruler here so that it lines up. But for some odd reason, again, it's not working the way I want it to. And right now, I'm just putting in the shaded details onto her eyes. I should have done this one near the end to play around with that eye detail. I think I should have just kept it to what I needed it to, and that's just to get the structure and get the eyes the way I need it to go. So now I'm really playing around with those eyes to make sure it works. Right now it's looking pretty decent. I think I may have put too much eyeshadow and too much eyeliner on there, so it looks a little bit too caked on. And yeah, see, as I do the symmetrical tool, the eyes look stupid wonky. So here, this was me just working too much on that face, and it's not coming out the way I want it to. Even had to go. I think I use a whole new layer just so I can make this thing work. And I kept on playing around with it too much, and I think it really hurt it until I had to just stop what I'm doing, go back later on, and make it so that it actually works. I'm gonna warn you guys right now. I did record this thing from start to finish, but I think at stage 10, I accidentally pressed the record button at the wrong point, and I wasn't able to record the very tail end of this piece. So there is some stuff that's missing, which is changing up with the color tones and making it look proper to the finished product. But the majority of this video is just painting section. So you get to see the majority of how this piece gets made. All the rest is kind of just playing around with different effects and brushes to make the backgrounds and make the kind of effects to make it look like she's underwater. So it's important, but it's not that important for this one. Maybe in the next one I'll do it from start to finish if you guys want to see more. So here I finally noticed her lips were a little bit disproportionate, so now I'm trying to just even it out by eye. Get a little bit more structure there. And since she's looking down on us and her head is tilted up, her top lip will actually be a lot bigger and her bottom lip will look a little bit straighter. Just from that angle. That's why her nose is a little bit up. So right here, I'm using a color dodge layer, and I'm just shining a little bit of light gray, just to kind of give it that there's where the light source is coming from. And right now, I'm on a soft light layer at the very, very top, and now I'm starting to lay down some of the colors. And I'm using the same some of the same watercolor brushes, just going in and just blocking out where the colors are going to be. And this is, I was told it was supposed to be a soft light, so I'm doing it with a soft light, but as I go through, you'll start to see me playing around. And the soft light is actually a place where you can go at the very, very top. As you see, I'm playing around with the opacity. There's a thing that says soft light at the very, very top. You can go to that drop menu, and you can play around with different blending menus to play around with how you want that layer to look like. So I'll put it in some of the water. Right now, this was another thing that was really time consuming, was trying to make sure I go in tight enough and make sure the green goes where the green's supposed to go, and maybe some of the blue might meld in. See, as I got rid of that, I go in and really push in, make sure the green goes right to the edge of her suit. And it's still in a painterly style, so since there's some brush strokes that look a little bit lighter, some look a little bit darker as it melds and blends in with the layer that I worked on for the gray tones. So going through, so since I'm using a watercolor, it's very, very blendy, so if my brush stroke touches some of the green, it'll actually pull some green into the blue. And the same thing that goes over here, so I have to make a couple more brush strokes just to try to get where I need it to go, or get it to at least a tone I like to go. So I went through, put in a darker blue, and that kind of affected some of the rest of the piece that may have been blended in a little bit and didn't recognize that the color is different. Just going back in, playing around with the green again, giving her a little bit of color, and making sure the skin tones and the greens are all in the places where I want them to be. So this might take you a little bit of time to get there. And if you're wondering how long the piece took completely, I'm not entirely sure. I did, of the recorded pieces, I did at least 10 parts at least 20 to 30 minutes a pop. So that should give you a barometer of how long it took fully. And then with the pieces that I did near the end, I'm not too sure how long that took me. But again, you can do the math. I'm not doing the math right now for it. So you can see, I'm going back into that color dodge and just playing around with the lighting, into the opacity, just to see, so I'll show where the lighting is coming from, and trying to make sure that blue balances and kind of looks darker. So now I took the color piece and I put it as a multiply. That's one of the options you could choose. And look how rich the colors look, and how dark it gets, because it's actually working alongside the rendered layer. So it's really that's how it look overlay, and that's how it looks multiply. So I'll be playing around with how that works a little bit later. But right now I'm actually really liking how dark it is, and how it kind of mixes well with how it's supposed to look like underwater. Just double checking, making sure it's all those tiny little crevices are covered. Just I noticed that there's a little bit of, I want to put a gold trim on some of the piping there, our suit. So this is the suit that I think I found. It's one of her suits in the comic books. I didn't want to go with the movie suit because I wanted to show a little bit more skin tones instead of just green suit the entire way through. See that the collar's popped a little bit, and then there's her shoulders and biceps are exposed, just to show a little bit different tones instead of just on her face. I really wanted to play with around skin tones just so that it looked a little bit normal. And I think I'm noticing that I'm getting a little bit hoarse. I have been sick for almost the entire year. I'm doing this on the 20th, so I've been sick the majority of the time. So I'm just starting to get back my voice and getting back to normal. Sorry about that. No, did a fuck up right there. And the cool thing that I'll be doing with the videos, I'm going to keep these up on Patreon for the majority of the time. I'm not going to delete them like I would all my other rewards. This is something that anybody can jump in because it's only for $1, so you can enjoy all these videos because it's going to be on my YouTube channel anyway as unlisted. So why get rid of them? I don't understand why I have to get rid of them for that. So if you want to keep watching, if you know people that want to watch it and want to see how it's done and how I did this thing, yeah, let them know. The join up is only for $1. You get to hear me spout, what I think I can do and try to give a professional opinion on how I do my work. And this was one of the things, as I said, putting on those different brush strokes for hair and now having to go back and try to precisely mimic that stroke. It's kind of a pain, but again, it was worth it for the amount of detail that came out of this piece. Just walk my knee. I'm not too sure if I go back in and I play around with her eyes again. I don't think I do. I think I just kind of leave it the way it is, and then I play around with it with makeup and tones. That was one thing when you eye drop with multiple layers, especially with a blending layer, it kind of plays around with the actual colors that you need. So here I am, I'm playing around with the opacity and some of the different layers to kind of see what it looks like. Right now, multiply, it looks like it's the best way to go, and it's on full opacity. Here I am, going back to normal, going back just so I can see where the lines are or where I need to make them, or where pieces I need to go back in and fill them out because it might be a little bit dark. I'm gonna have to fix that little blotch of peach I just saw there by her hair. Yeah, you can see that with tones that have made it look a little bit gray, but it really pops with the pink coming through. And it won't be the last time I touch the hair either. I will go in with another tone or with another brush to really pop the highlights that's bouncing off the moonlight that I have in that top layer. Excuse me again. So here in the eyes, I chose not to use a white because most eyes aren't actually white. They're kind of like an off-white or a gray. And since she's underwater, I chose to do a light blue, just to blend in with the water. And she has green eyes, and I can play around with that. Seeing it like that makes it look really, really weird. And yeah, I chose a very dark pink, this color that matches her hair. I think I just play around with that. Yeah, just to blend it in, just so it doesn't look like a full black, and her eyebrows look super weird compared to the rest of her. And then, yeah, her eyelashes will be a dark gray. We'll blend in well and make it look like it's darker than it should. Try not to use whole like black and black on pieces. Try to just make it blend in with different colors and different tones. Just works better that way. Okay, you're starting to see that she's starting to take form. Now playing around with the highlights in her eye. It's a little like bouncy, so yeah, so you can see there's a little bit there. There's a line right by her bottom lid. That's a thing I learned from Jim Lee, where he puts the kind of like, it's a little bit moist around the eyes, so almost like there's tears welling, but it's usually you don't have tears, it's just that's where water sits in your eyes. So I wanted to kind of emulate that little trick that he did. Now playing around with there. The same thing, you can see some of the highlights there. That right at the edge where your lip and where the skin of your face meet, it gets a little bit of light gets touched on there too. Playing around with how her mouth would look when it's wide open. Be a little bit white, just teeth in there. I could have went with a dark red. I'm not too sure if I did, but I think I keep it that way. And now I think what I do is I go in and just all of her skin tones, and I play around with a little bit of a tan and try to show some shade differentiation on some of the parts that are darker, just to give it a little bit more depth, give it a little bit of warmth, because yeah, the grays are really making it look dark. So I want to make sure that she has some different skin tones and different coloring to it. Try not to blend it too. Not make it so dark, but I want to blend it in so it looks natural in some of those points. Then you do the same thing with the green. Another layer, but yeah, you can see that there's a little bit of a little bit of an orange, a little bit of tone, just to show that it's not just a dead skin tone. There's actually some depth to it, because yeah, you can look at your skin, there's a little bit of reds in there, a little bit of oranges. So I like to play around with that. So yeah, so now we're gonna get into those highlights I told you with the hair. So we're on the multiply, so I'm just playing around, just putting some darker tones here. As you can see, there's a little bit of a purple. And as you can see, it's really, really dark because I don't have the moonlight layer on. So I'm just playing around with what I can see, what I would assume the darkness and the light would actually hit it on. So now I'm putting a little bit of lighter strokes in her hair, just so that the highlighted pieces can go and shine through. That's a cool looking look. Super dark and kind of bluish saturation. And now I jumped into some of the different effect airbrushes that I have. I'm going to go through and use a whole new layer, go into add glow. I'm going to put kind of like a fish scale shine on her suit. So this is actually going to be, I think, the last bit that you'll see from here as I play with around the opacity. It's on an add glow, so it does shine a little bit brighter than it does for other ones. And different tones, because there is different fish scales do look a little bit different when it hits light. So there'll be yellows and greens and some teals in there. Put like super light ones on the color layer, just because I want it to feel a little bit multiplied, and it blends in with the background with the different things. So we're going to be wrapping this up real quick. So I'm adding some blue into her suit, just to kind of give it again another differentiation for her tone for her suit. And yeah, I think that's going to be wrapping it up right there. I think this might be the last stroke. And now, And now I am back. This is the actual finished piece of my Mera painting you just saw me draw. But this time I actually did go back and I did fix her face. It had a little bit more softer, more feminine angle, a lot better if you could see that. So I knew I could do better than what I was doing, so I had to go back. I didn't record that process, unfortunately, but you can see the results here and right now. This is not going to be the last I do in this kind of style. If you want to see my progress when doing digital painting, you can subscribe to this channel. You can pick up this print exactly the way it is on my shop at radpencils.com. So please go check that out and be sure to check out all my social media for new updates and new drawings I'll be doing in the future. Thank you guys so much. We'll see you guys next time.